Alrighty, CNT125, Chapter 8. We're now looking at the section on IP6, subnets and IP6. Remembering with IP version 4, 32-bit address, because there's so few IP version 4 addresses in the grand scheme of things, the ISP can really only allocate a few IP version 4 addresses to each customer, and those need to be shared for the whole site. Hence why we started using NAT and private addressing inside so that we can make that happen. With IP version 6, 28 bits, there is 3.4 times 10 to the 38 possible IP addresses. The ISP can actually allocate an entire IP version 6 subnet, thousands and thousands of addresses to each customer. So really, we don't have near the problem with IP version 6 as we do with IP version 4, but I still do need to recognize how I would break up an IP version 6 network allocated to me for my site. Classes are not used, subnet masks are not used, and a single IP version 6 subnet is capable of supplying, as you see here, quite a few IP addresses. Okay, so I just need to understand how we're allocating them or dealing with them. Alright, this should hopefully be a reminder, a refresher from way back in Chapter 3. If I have an IP version 6 address, and this is the one they had in the book for you, the first 4 blocks, the first half, if you will, the first 4 blocks is your network prefix, your network ID, the network portion if you had to compare it to IP version 4. Also called a site prefix or global routing prefix. That is roughly the first 64 bits, the first half. So in this case, the 22608 FE10 1AA is my site prefix or my global routing prefix, my network portion of the address. And you'll notice you'll see a /64 behind that indicating the first 64 bits. The first half is indicating the network portion, if you will. The last half of my address, the remaining 64 bits of my address, this guy right here, this identifies the interface. This would almost be like the host portion. This identifies the interface, the node, the device, the thing on the network. Oftentimes, on an IP version 6 network, this is based on the MAC address of that node. The MAC address of that node we know is 48 bits, we know that, but there's a format that we take the MAC address and plug it into a 64-bit block, 64-bit address block, and tends to be some representation of the MAC address of that node, because we know the MAC addresses are unique. So that is not going to get duplicated anywhere else. So that tends to be a 64-bit representation of the MAC address of that node on the network. That tends to be the format for IP version 6 addresses. So if I had to break it out, I think this is the picture they use in the book 2 for you. This first half over here, 2608 FE10 1AA is the site prefix, the first 64 bits. The last out here is the interface ID, like we were showing you. Now, the fourth block, the fourth hex block, can be used for subnets within a site. So this guy right here, the first 3, and they show you the breakdown, the ISP organization, once they allocate to you, you have a little block right here, I hate to use the word octet, the fourth hexadecimal block, the fourth block, can be used to do subnets for your facility. So I have quite a bit of capability. I have 16 bits at my disposal to create up 65,000 subnets for my site, and then I still have 64 bits possible for hosts or nodes on my network. Okay, so I can use that as the way to create subnets in my network, and that's what I have here with the 4th hexadecimal block on my network prefix. That is what gets used for IP version 6, that block right there. So if I were to back up right here, I could say AA would be the first subnet, maybe AB is the second subnet, AC is the next subnet, AD is the next subnet, AE is the next subnet, and so forth. I could do something along those lines to create subnets for my facility using that block right there, that 4th hex block right there.